can't get it.
But you see how much kidnappers are taking from victims.
My thing is, problem with the, I think all the stakeholders in this, they need get that, and I think we get that. The 3% for the oil producing community is too low.
So the support that is needed, and once you get the support, your airline people will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning. Welcome to Monday, May 23rd edition of Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. My name is Winnie for the Web, and as usual, we're going to be reviewing and discussing some headline stories on some select newspapers across Nigeria. And with me in the studio is our public affairs analyst, Samuel Musa. Samuel, it's always a pleasure to have you. Because
Yeah, thank
I
you.
always tell you that.
Thank you for having me.
And you are wearing a red cap.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm trying to go the southeast way.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Welcome once again. And we have four papers for review this morning, talking of Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership, a sister publication, National Economy, THISDAY, and Vanguard newspapers. As usual, we are flagging it off with Leadership. Leadership has so many stories on its cover, but the main headline story is 2023 postponement of APC presidential screening of settles aspirants. 2023 postponement of APC presidential screening on settles aspirants. The story is on page 4. And underneath the story are potpourri of stories. No new date for exercise yet as president meets with aspirants on Wednesday. Jonathan's name pops up again in APC presidential permutations. May get parties waiver to run. Southeast presidential aspirants meet in Abuja forge alliance. Any breach during party primaries will invalidate entire process. INEC wants. Let's see some other stories making the cover on leadership this morning. Nigeria did not endorse OECD minimum corporate tax plan. That is a story still on leadership. We are still on leadership, talking about leadership stories first. And that is a story coming from the FIRS chairman, himself Nama. Still on leadership, federal government appoints Chukwunyere Nwamboku as acting accountant general. The story is on page 31 of leadership. Federal government appoints Chukwunyere Nwamboku as acting accountant general. Forensic audit, president stops unexecuted NDDC projects. Forensic audit, presidency stops unexecuted NDDC projects. The story is still inside leadership. And on the cover of leadership this Monday, May 23, 2022, are pictures, picture stories. They always say that picture tell a lot more than stories. So let's go over to the stories above the masthead of leadership. We have business news stories. Farmers worry over insecurity, climate change, others as planting season begins. Farmers worry over insecurity, climate change, others as planting season begins. Stakeholders seek subsidy on inputs. The story is on page 7 of leadership newspaper. 4 killed in Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa as PDP hosts reps state assembly primaries. 4 killed in Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa as PDP hosts reps state assembly primaries. The story is also on page 7 of leadership. Now we are moving in for discussion the headline story, the main headline story of leadership. Postponement of APC presidential screening on settles aspirants. Now, Samantha, why is this so? Why are they worried?
Yeah, they have to be worried. As a matter of fact, I've never seen where a political party is so confused like what APC is actually displayed. And it didn't just start today. From inception, this has actually been the style because for a ruling party not to be able to actually set the pace or to live by good example is actually worrisome. It's not just worrisome to the party, but should be to the rest of Nigeria, because whatever happens in the ruling party has a way of affecting the whole of us. So
Yes,
whether you are a
yes.
politician or not, it's going to affect you what they do or do not they refuse to do. It's worrisome for quite a lot of them, because if the party had actually felt it wants to do some consensus, or actually they have someone who they believe is the one they want to make their own flag bearer,
Mm.
they shouldn't lure the rest of them or encourage them into this spending.
Mm. A
Uh, uh,
100 million is not a joke.
Apart from the 100 million, that's even the smallest part of what's going on, because you see, all they do 3 states per day. That's the aspirants. The serious ones among them do 3 states per day.
Yes.
They keep going, talking to delegates here
Yes.
and there. And we could see, I read over the weekend in one of the newspapers who was talking about 124 billion already
Mm.
is in circulation in the hand of delegates from both parties. So that's worrisome when you allow people to keep spending money, and whereas that they are not any close to being your candidates. There's not going to be a level playing ground for all the aspirants, that whoever wins. So you should have just said it to them early enough, not until when it gets to the stage. And you see what they unconsciously is going to breed in the long run is that for people who you refuse to tell them the truth that they're not going to emerge, or you're not going to allow the primaries to go free and fair, you're
Mm.
probably just going to muzzle the rest of them out of the race. Is that, of course, there's going to be resentments. People go to revolt and be like, okay, if you actually had this plan all along and you refuse to let me know, you allow me with all my labor in the party, you still allow me to spend my money, hard-earned money on, this contest, then I'd rather go the other way. So well, a lot of them might end up acting spoilers if they feel some
Mm.
kind of disappointment. So that's why they are also worried. And when we're talking about just about a week to primary election,
Mm.
you keep changing
Changing the
dates
date.
and not even having a definite date yet, that it will be communicated in the shortest possible time. These are all games, that they are playing, and I just hope it's not going to boomerang in the long run.
No, still on leadership newspaper, there is a rider on that Jonathan's name. Let's see leadership. Let's have leadership back on our screen. It says Jonathan's name pops up again in APC presidential permutations. May get parties waiver to run. Now, there has been a denier on
Yeah,
Jonathan's part
counter
and
deny, yes.
counter deniers and all whatnot. So, what is actually the situation?
Well, I think, of course, there's no any hiding it anymore that the party actually showed, or some, chieftain of the party actually wanted giving it to a good luck Jonathan.
Mm,
For whatever reason, they were advocating for him, and we saw this play out even before the change of leadership in the party.
mm.
You know, the what's the name of the former chairman again?
Yeah,
The
the
Yobe
Yobe
State
State governor.
governor.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was also accused that he was rooting to be a running mate
it's
to
Jonathan.
Jonathan, and back and forth denials here and there. And then this time around, we saw how this is actually played out a few weeks back, where some Almajiri gathered 100 million naira to go and buy
Phone for.
form for a Jonathan. And that's actually funny, because when you say Almajiri and some, cattle rearers are actually coming together to donate 100 million naira. But you see, in the whole of this,
Mm,
it's one thing that Jonathan has been able to achieve, is that whatever has been said about him in the past by the ruling party for
mm,
the 5 years they were in opposition, while Jonathan was in power, it actually showed that it was all a lie. It also showed that you know you don't believe whatever politicians are actually saying at time. So whatever it is that they said about him were all cooked up. They succeeded doing that, in the sense that eventually they booted him out of the villa. But unfortunately they're still turning back now to say, well, Because if your party want to present someone who you all have called all sort of names, is that you're saying you are restricting your steps and withdrawing all the statements. So I think Nigerians deserve an apology from the APC to say, okay, we apologize for actually lying to you about who President Goodluck Jonathan, is. Because I mean the stories that was dished out back then is still in circulation even as we speak. You can go to Google, you see some of the utterances. So it's for them to actually apologize to Nigerians for lying against him, and even to he himself, he also they need to actually apologize to him. But having said that, is that the APC is actually in the total confusion. I mean, whether they want to deny it or not, it's actually very glaring now. They don't know what they want to do. Just about a few days back, we saw how the Senate president was actually drawn into the race, where we saw some of the Southeast senators who have actually said it's not fair not to let this thing go to the Southeast at this time. Also, are not making a U-turn to also start campaigning for the Senate president. That is actually the best candidate to come at this kind of time, you know. So we
And
saw
that
that
just
block.
like Southeast, the Northeast too also has not produced any president.
Yeah, just like Southeast, Northeast, and North Central have not produced any president. So, well, let's see how that ends. But I'm sure, uh, and thank God, INEC also have reminded them, because if by this time you are still in confusion as to what do you want to do, of course I know they have given them withdrawal form, which is part of the ploy to say when it is time to muzzle you out, you have no choice but to accept, and you can't go to court. So let's hope they succeed in doing this. The game they are, trying to put forward. We pray that they succeed, because I honestly do not see, or I don't want a situation where INEC will be left with no choice, but to, of course, because I believe the ruling party can actually want to influence the constitution by, bringing all manner of, they might say it's doctrine of necessity, that they foresee that there's going to be chaos, they foresee this, that security situation, a report does not favor an election to hold at this time, and then we might not actually be rooting for no, what's it called, an interim government. You understand, because that's the only thing people can listen to. If you want to extend Buhari's tenure, I'm telling you, it's going to the crisis will be too large, because people are already counting days. There's a countdown, so it's going to be a great disappointment.
Samala, you actually took the words out of my mouth, because that's what I was going to ask you. Because we have INEC on the other hand saying that no, it cannot shift
The date.
the date any longer, that it is going to alter the whole calendar. So, give or take, what are your permutations?
Yeah, the permutations is that
able to
the
put
APC
on that?
will not allow the country to go into a general election without they having a candidate. Because that is now automatic, that you have handed it over to the PDP. They are not going to allow that to happen. So what they will come up with is to issue some, or go and cook up some doctrine of necessity why election will not hold. You understand? Because a lot of them have they have to, questions to answer after leaving power, and that's why they wouldn't want to hand over to any opposition at this time, because they feel they're going to be exposed. We saw how some of them who feel a bit threatened by saying they have to resign are feeling, oh, so you mean my books are going to be opened this early? You understand? So they can't afford to do that. We saw how the Attorney General actually backtracked and, say he's no longer in the race. So a lot of issues are on ground. But you see, ultimately is that
But on the issue of Attenja, there are reports that he has actually picked a ticket that he's been exempted.
well, it's neither here or there, because they are all rumors. Some person said someone has picked the ticket on his behalf,
Yes.
and then just like some governors used to do while they're sitting, they get someone to pick the Senate ticket for them, and then later on they swap the ticket. So we really can't tell, but I'm sure a lot of them are actually jittery, that they don't know what will actually be their fate, and that's why they actually backtracking. So the ruling party is actually in a state of confusion right now. And if they are not issuing any statement that is actually reassuring by Wednesday, then honestly, I don't think there's going to be an election.
Okay. Still on APC ticket. Let's see what this day has similar story close to it. So let's see what this day is saying in relation to APC primaries, presidential ticket. Wanjiba, that is the Minister of State for Education, former Minister of State for Education, Chukwemeka Wanjiba, Tinubu Osinbajo are most not suitable for Nigeria's current work plan. Wanjiba, Tinubu Osinbajo are most not suitable for Nigeria's current work plan. Argues Southwest angling for power makes no sense. Declares Nnamani Onu are disadvantaged by age. Explains zoning is difficult after people had purchased forms. Says bandits attacked Kaduna train because they thought they were delegates coming to collect dollar in Abuja. So it's still tied to APC, the leading story on leadership. So what is your take on that? He's canvassing, this is that age
Yeah,
is
of
on the
course.
side.
Uh,
But are
uh,
the youths, are they ready to buy in? That is the
well,
problem.
he's doing the right thing in the sense that he's selling himself. He's
Mm,
actually making his own image. But whether the ruling party is actually willing to consider some of these things he mentioned is actually another
mm,
topic for another day. But you see, uh, like people have always said, that we have owners of Nigeria. That the rest of the masses are just they are just tenants.
yeah.
So when the owners of Nigeria decides who they want, even if it's an 80-year-old or a 90-year-old, the rest
With
of
a
us
walking stick.
with a walking stick, the rest of us will always, I mean, will just be making noise. But the owners, the landlords have actually taken a decision. And unfortunately, that's where we are in Nigeria. We're just praying that in the shortest possible time, we're going to wriggle out of this because it's like when you are in a slave, when you are sold into slavery, it's just like the story of the Israelites. That's what we find ourselves. We have landlords who are actually the Egyptians, so we are praying that we're going to break loose and be free one day. But you see, the points he's making are actually valid.
Mm,
He's argued Southwest angling for power makes no sense. Well, since he's from the Southeast, he's also saying that, well, it's our turn because until it got to the Southeast,
mm,
they don't really stand a chance. Or until he's able to convince the Nigerians that it's actually the time for the Southeast to produce a president,
okay.
they actually don't stand a chance when you consider population.
Okay, yeah.
So
You
also
said argue
declares
Southwest angling for power makes no sense.
sense, yeah. So I mean, for a Southeastern Easterner who is contesting, of course, that is valid. But whether the rest of Nigerians are seeing it from that angle is actually another thing. But it declares Onu and Nnamani disadvantaged by
By
age.
age.
Well, that is actually true to some extent. But a lot of them are also saying that are we going into a football pitch or are we going into a war that is
Yeah.
just governance?
Yeah.
It takes somebody who is mentally stable to do so, and they feel they garnered all the experience that is needed for that office. And then, he actually mentioned why zoning is actually difficult. It's part of the things I mentioned earlier that don't
Mm,
encourage people to start spending this humongous
yes.
amount. Explain zoning is difficult after people had
At
purchased
quotations.
forms, you know. But I think the sale of forms is a way for the party to keep raising funds. So says bandit attack Kaduna train because they thought they were delegates coming to collect dollar in Abuja. Well, I thought the train was actually
Heading
from,
back to,
or the train was heading. Okay,
I
yeah,
thought it
that's
was heading back to Kaduna.
no, that well, I thought it was going from Kaduna. I mean, from Abuja
Me
to
too,
Kaduna because it
actually.
happens at
Yes.
night. The train don't move at night from Kaduna to
Yes.
Abuja.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I thought. So I don't really know, and it wasn't time. The time it happened, it wasn't time for delegates to start collecting dollars. And so I don't really know where he got that information from. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your thoughts on these two newspapers. Well, viewers, we are going on a short break. When we come back, we'll have time to review more other papers. Don't go away. Stay tuned.
sponsorship, and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. You're still on to Leadership Television. The program is Inside Nigeria. With me in the studio is a public affairs analyst and a commentator. His name is Samaila Musa. It's always a pleasure to host him on the program.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my name is still remains winning for the global. Let's see what Vanguard, the next week, will have on our menu saying this Monday, May 23rd, 2022. Let's have Vanguard. Vanguard newspaper. Main headline story says why Buhari is not signing electoral act. Sources. Why Buhari is not signing electoral act. Sources. Opts for moral high ground. APC leaders
Behind the lead.
behind delay. PDP. APC. Can I see more of the stories? APC keeps mum. His right to refer bill for checks. Olawepo Hashim. Bankole canvasses modified consensus to decide APC candidates. Why Buhari is not signing electoral act according to sources. Opts for moral high ground. APC leaders behind delay according to PDP. Why APC keeps mum. His right to refer bill for checks. Olawepo Hashim. Bankole canvasses modified consensus to decide APC candidates. I think this
Yeah.
electoral act has undergone about 3 amendments
Yeah.
since its passage.
We are even tired of talking about electoral acts,
Yes.
honestly, because I know we were talking about it for like almost 3 months stretch.
Yes.
It was back and forth, between the National Assembly and the president, where we also saw how the president keep reeling out the credentials of the leadership of the National Assembly to tell us that they actually very qualified, people and doing the right thing. And then each time the president also goofed, the National Assembly is also there to also tell us how qualified the president is and how well he's doing.
Mm.
You know, so we saw this drama play out that period quite a number of times. But having said that, I mean, I think they should be ashamed of themselves and just let us put this electoral act issue behind us and face the business of the day, which is the 2023 elections. There are still issues here and there concerning the elections. And this electoral act is just between the National Assembly and the presidency,
Mm.
who ordinarily are, I mean, this, members of the same party.
Mm.
So I don't really see whatever. Civil society organizations have actually make a lot of noise concerning the people's concern, and if they're not ready to do that which is the right thing, let them do whatever it is that they want to do, but let them do it on time so that people can actually, move away from that path and actually move forward.
And Samuel, as you speak, that's a session that they inserted, session 84,
Yes,
clause
subsection
84
12.
and subsection 12. It's still before the Supreme Court for interpretation, and they'll
Yes,
be deciding on it, I think, on the 29th of May.
of me.
So, how come this electoral act has generated so much controversies?
Because they refuse to do the right thing. The people have spoken.
This session wasn't there initially. The National Assembly inserted it.
Yeah, they started it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying when people refuse to do the right thing.
Mm.
You understand? Because that clause ought to actually be among the ones that they were going around the country
Yes.
holding some form of retreat and go about, and getting inputs. What are the pulse of Nigerians concerning the electoral act? What needs to be amended? What needs to be added to it? What needs to be expunged, and all of that. Should have been part of it, but it was an afterthought.
It was an afterthought when the president demanded they should remove the indirect primaries
Yeah.
before he signs it, and
You
they
know.
removed it, and they now
Inserted this one.
clause that is generating so much controversy.
So, yeah. So we're used to controversies in Nigeria, but sometimes you just want to believe when it's members of the same party who are actually involved, or who are the most active players there. It should have been resolved early enough. They could, before this whole thing even went to court, they could have their own meetings to say, well, this is what we think we should do, and this is how we should go about it. But it's all drama. Some of these are just scripts that they are just playing so that Nigerians don't see them as if, oh, they are rubber stamp or this or that.
Actually, many Nigerians feel that they inserted that clause just to checkmate some ministers, yes, government appointees who they felt was bigger than their shoes. Larger than life image.
Yeah, sure. Of course, that you can't rule out those facts. As a matter of fact, some of the dramas that happen in Nigeria is that you actually can be at the helm of affairs, and you will still be the same person who will sponsor some people from outside to sue you to court. You understand, for whatever reason. So these are all some of the political gimmicks you see here and there in this country.
Okay, thank you so much. Still on Vanguard News, but Vanguard has other leading stories on this cover this morning. Let's scroll down and see what other stories are. Beheaded Anambra lawmaker, Soludo in shock, offers 10 million naira bounty on killers. Beheaded Anambra lawmaker, Soludo in shock, offers 10 million naira bounty on killers. That is on page 15 of Vanguard newspaper. And underneath the story, we have Kano explosion. Police confirms his IED. Arrest 2 impound vehicle with bombs. Kano explosion. Police confirms his IED. Arrest 2 impound vehicle with bombs. It's on page 13 of the story. Now, the report that went out immediately after that explosion was that it was gas explosion, and now police is coming out to say that it was actually explosives. Do you have any reaction to that?
Well, I think it was the police.
Our guard now, because they said they kidnapped 2 Boko Haram.
Yeah, it was the police actually that also came out when it happened to say it wasn't bomb explosion. That it was, because I watched a video where I don't know whether it's the commissioner of police in Kano or some high-ranking officer who was talking at the scene of this explosion. That contrary to insinuations out there that it was explosion, that it wasn't a bomb explosion, but rather it was a gas, that exploded, and then make some assertions. But you see, I think first and foremost, it's also important for police not to be quick in issuing statement without taking out proper investigation about the whole thing. Because where it was, this explosion happened, was it that they're selling gas there? Was it a gas plant, or was it a gas shop or something? Because how did you arrive at it? Must have been a gas that exploded. And all of a sudden now to find out that it was actually IEDs, and I'm sure it was the arrest of the vehicle that was laden with bombs that actually made them to actually go back into the investigation of this particular incident. So I think the police need to be more professional when next this kind of thing happens.
Some Vanguard violence upsets stray PDP reps state assembly primaries. This story was also in leadership. Deborah Khan, PFN, protest killing, say enough is enough. It's on page 8 of the story. And declare fatwa against jungle justice, that is Muslim scholars. And the story is on page 13. Let's go up on leadership on Vanguard newspaper, and see what more stories they have on their page. Electricity generation drops by 7% to 3,284 megawatts. Now, Tamela, we've always had we are on 4,000 megawatts. Now it has dropped from 4,000 to 3,284 megawatts. What is happening? Are we not supposed to be going up, making progress?
You see, the issue of electricity in Nigeria, we have actually accepted that to be our cross. That problem, I don't know who will solve it, whether it will actually take God to solve the electricity problem in Nigeria. There's no time actually that we ever had stable electricity. And then, so I don't even, and I'm sure that it applies to a lot of Nigerians. We don't even follow this megawatt thing they are writing. because I mean, if I don't have light for 2 days,
And that is
so
still
what?
rising.
So what's the megawatt? Whether
That
it's
is
dropping or it's
rising.
rising, I don't care. All I care about is to have light.
Like,
So when you are saying this megawatt, that it doesn't make any sense to me. But all I want is, and you see, quite a lot of people are paying bills. I saw one cartoon that was saying it's only in Nigeria that you will spend money in diesel or petrol to run your business, but use the profits
to go and pay
to
NEPA.
go and pay NEPA bill. If you understand, so that's
That
the
is true.
irony of the whole thing.
But
You know,
I agree with you when you guys when you said that we don't really understand this megawatt thing. Actually, there was a time a few weeks ago when there was darkness, and they announced that the national grid has collapsed. I was
collapse.
like, wow, prepare for
Another
a
total
break,
blackout. Yeah,
total blackout. But strangely enough, next 1 hour, 2 hours, the light was back. I was like, I'm agreeing to what you said that we
yeah.
shouldn't just believe all this megawatts thing and all
You
this
know,
stuff, but we really don't understand how it works. Well, that is it on Vanguard newspaper. From Vanguard, we are moving to the last paper we have on our menu, and that is our sister publication, National Economy. National Economy is talking business as usual. It says steel raw materials imports cost Nigeria 1.4 trillion naira annually. Steel raw materials imports cost Nigeria 1.4 trillion naira annually as more local steel manufacturing firms shut down. Ajaokuta steel plant remains the missing link, according to analysts. Samuela, why
yeah.
can't we just get that Ajaokuta steel? Why can't we get it? What is happening? What
It,
is derailing it?
it's not even just Ajaokuta that we have. Funny enough, quite a lot of Nigerians believe that that's the only steel rolling company that we have in
Mm,
Nigeria, but there's quite a lot of them. I know there was a time I was writing a project in school that I used Katana Steel Rolling Company, as a case study.
how big is that?
Yeah, quite big, quite big. I was surprised,
There is not up to
that
Ajaokuta.
of I've not been to Ajaokuta, so I don't know how
Okay,
big,
no,
but
it's
there was
big.
more
It's
attention
Ajaokuta is
on,
like a community on its own.
yeah,
It's a
there's more
private
attention on Ajaokuta. As a matter of fact, when I went to the MD, I don't know if it's the MD they call him or the CEO or whatever it is, the highest officer in the Katana Steel Rolling Company, actually, that has been the biggest or the largest office I've entered so far, and it's been a long, long time ago. You understand? Well furnished, very massive office. Nice views. I think it's about on the fifth floor or something like that. So I was wondering, but everything was just there.
and they have a plan there.
They have a plan. As a matter of fact, I got statistics of their production, but at that time they weren't producing. But I got previous years, because I needed to do some analysis about the production and stuff like that. So it's actually appalling to know that we have all these kind of things, and you wonder where we're actually putting our head. Perhaps some people believe they can make more money from the imports
Mm.
than allow these things to
To
actually
work.
function in Nigeria. You understand?
Yes.
And of late, even under this government, we saw how much money was pumped into Ajakuta Steel Rolling Company,
Yes.
and yet
Yes.
you thought, oh, this one has come to revive it once and for all,
Mm.
and then you keep hearing all manner of stories here and there why this is not working, why this will work, why, and stuff like that. I mean, we're just tired. We're just tired of all these things. And it's actually, they have the capacity of even exporting.
Yes.
You
That
understand?
was in aim.
Yeah. So, and if till this time we're still where we are, and some of these things have been there for maybe more than 30 years and stuff like that, it actually doesn't seem to work. Maybe if they sell them off, maybe we might have some relief in that regard, to say, well, there's a company actually producing this, because it's going to make cost of raw materials to come a bit cheaper when it's actually being produced in the country. So, and that will have multiply effects on most of these things, because quite a number of this steel are actually used in building in virtually most areas of, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to go a long way if that can actually be addressed once and for all. But who will make that happen is what we don't know. When, we also do not know.
But why? How come our how do I feel? Her plants are supposed to be so productive. Talking about even refineries, where it's the situation we are facing. Ajapra has been there and no concrete effort, and people are alleging saboteurs amongst them that they don't want it to function.
That's the Nigerian story. It's the same story that is affecting the issue of electricity
And
and
refinery.
refineries. The refineries is even worse because you hear the humongous amount being spent yearly for maintenance. What are you maintaining? You are maintaining things that are not producing anything. You understand? So when you look at the cost of production, of maintenance, is also as good as saying, let us just put this money together for 5 years and go and build another refinery, because it's not making any sense. They are not producing anything, and yet they are maintaining them. And then when you go to,
staff.
they are paying their staff. As a matter of fact, if you know the number of staff being paid, you will be shocked. I saw where a former GMD of the NMPC was telling someone that one of the things he found very annoying when he was in office was that he had up to like 30 tea girls. He said, because of that, I don't even drink tea in the office because it's annoying.
30 tea girls.
Yes, they're all there just sitting down, hanging around the offices, and their job there is to make tea for the MD. You understand? And if you know their salary, some PAMSEC in ministries don't even earn that amount. So I don't really know what's actually going on. We have a big problem in Nigeria, actually.
Now we are about to enter another government. And we see how so many aspirants on the fray and they are saying they will do this, but they are actually not telling us how they are going to go about it.
You said the primaries?
Yes. They have been going about meeting delegates and up and down.
Oh,
They are
okay.
being in the news, but they are not telling us how they are actually the deliberate efforts they are going to take to make sure that Nigerian works functions.
That's most unfortunate. And I think I've watched quite a number of them. It's only.
You have, I know you have an ambition. So what are you also going to take the narrative out there that you cannot just swallow, Nigerians should not swallow hook, line, and sinker any aspirant that comes to say, and most of these my aspirants are governors, former governors that have not been able to pay salary, they have not to make be able to make even their economy work, and yet they are coming on the bigger scene that they want to be president. So given this kind of scenario we have now,
You see, a lot of politicians actually are more focused. We saw how this government came into power, and for 6 months, no minister was appointed. It's to tell you that they're actually not prepared. A lot of them are not prepared. All they want or their concentration is how to grab power at that particular time. They say, oh, when we get to office, we now start planning.
But now we're about to enter another one. We're
You
almost saying the
understand?
same thing.
We're saying the same thing.
So
The only person I saw that had a media brief, or I don't know what the tag is again, media something. I think it was Saraki in one hall a few weeks ago, who spoke for about almost an hour without looking at any paper.
No, Samuel, why am I saying this? It's not enough to condemn every successive government, this government. No, you want to take over. So tell us what you want to do.
Nigerians are some kind of people. They don't ask.
I will tackle insecurity. That was what we had before. How are you not going to tackle insecurity?
Nigerians don't ask questions. We
How
always
are you going to
vote.
tackle the economy? We are having power. Like we just read that megawatts has dropped from 4,000 that we've always had over the
How are
years
you going to address that?
Or to 8. How are you going to address that?
Nigerians vote on sentiment, not on asking questions or who has the best plan for Nigeria. So maybe that also is encouraging the politicians to say, who cares? I don't know if it was here. I once told a story about how a former governor who was contesting for president actually called us for a meeting. And in that meeting was a professor who came in from ABU who was leaving. And the professor quickly came back to tell him that, Your Excellency, I will go and put together the manifesto of the party, the new party also. And the governor looked at him and looked at us and he just started laughing. He said, Professor, go and do your thing. Nobody cares about manifesto in Nigeria. I was governor for 8 years. I don't even know the manifesto of my party. Do you understand? So that's to tell you how that's a typical Nigerian politicians for you. If it's 8 years, a governor of 8 years for 8 years is telling you he doesn't know the manifesto of his party, we're actually in a very messy situation. You see somebody telling you how he's going to revamp or regulate or inject new things into educational system, for instance, and then if you ask him how many secondary schools do we have in Nigeria, he doesn't have the statistics. What are you planning about? If whatever it is in advanced climes you want to plan for something, you must have adequate statistics about that particular thing so that you know the quantum of what you're planning for. They don't even know how many universities we have in Nigeria a lot of times. And they tell you that our education system is going to, and that's why they will come in and our high institution student will be at home for 8 months, and nobody cares.
It's really, really sad because we've had this issue of Ajakuta still running for years now, and no tangible effort has been made to revive it and bring it to upstream.
I mean, the excuse are always been that saboteurs.
Yes.
Are the saboteurs more powerful than the government? Because if the saboteurs are more powerful than the government, I will just suggest that hand over the governance to the saboteurs, so that perhaps we'll know we're at their mercy, and maybe that time they'll be able to even try to do the right thing rather than because when the government is saying saboteurs, you can't flush them, you can't arrest them, or you can't. So it's actually something I really can't wrap my head around.
It's sad and unfortunate. Thank you so much, Samela.
Thank
for
you.
Your presence.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
With me. And viewers, this is where we call it a day on today's Inside Nigeria. Don't forget, tomorrow is another day for the same program, same station. I remain Winifred Igwebo. Bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.